It is another special episode session of Cannon's class. I'm truly excited and honored to have someone of great respect in this chair once again. And I always say this, I don't put anybody in this chair that I don't respect, honor, and look up to in a big way. And this is something that I feel a lot of people are going to be fed from this conversation right here. And it's, community activist, leader on so many different levels, but just a wise individual, father, mentor to so many, repping the West Coast super heavy. Big U in the building. OG.
What's up, fam?
What's going on, man?
Appreciate
you coming in to Cannon's class. And honestly, I really wanted to have this conversation to discuss so many things, but ultimately about man topics. You know what I mean? And you're somebody that has raised a lot of men. You know what I mean? And not only your actual sons, but it just within your community. So we'll get into a little bit of your background, and then I just got some questions on just like how we got to operate as men, and then just code. And staying solid. So before we get into those questions, and this is something specifically for me that I need to be educated on, the idea of being solid on one side, I think I have a strong understanding of what being solid is, but then on the other side, there's this code within our community, and the reason why I want to touch on this first, because then I'll know how far to go and where to go and what to ask and what not to ask. This topic of snitching.
Right.
Somebody who grew up out here on the West Coast, grew up in projects in Southeast San Diego, I was always taught you don't say nothing.
At all.
I've seen a lot in my life, and they just say don't speak on it. If it ain't got nothing to do with you, you don't speak on it. Me personally in my life, I've never called the police about anything.
Right.
First of all, they not my friends in my community. I don't care what I've witnessed murders, I've witnessed shootings, I've witnessed robberies, I've witnessed so much, but I would never ever think to alert the authorities. Now, that's a whole some people are watching this and like, what? That's a crazy concept. But in our community, snitching is the biggest no-no. From the ideas of snitches get stitches. The idea just like we had a whole campaign, stop snitching. But then on the other hand, when in our community, and it's a paradigm shift, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with young people, women, everything from rape to molestation to accusations, things that we don't know are true, not true. And so we're in this place in this time where we don't really know what to talk about. Then on one hand, we got things, the media is so crazy that people online, social media, talking about stuff and sharing their opinion that have nothing to do with it. And so even as we sit here and have a conversation, I'm pretty sure many things are going to come up. And the last thing I would ever want is be like, oh, they just up there dry snitching. They just up there giving the game away. On the code of snitching, or the code of being able to be solid and stay solid and have conversations, one, where did this topic of not snitching come from? And then how do we operate within it?
I mean, the topic of not snitching is really kind of like, it's not nothing new. It's like, people been committing crimes and doing things forever. The way we see, let me talk about, just refer to the gang culture, because that's what populates now. Popular music, hip hop. In the gang culture is not new. Right. The way we do it on the West Coast is new. It's relatively 50 years old at the most, 50, 60 years old at the most with the big homies. Right. But going back to being loyal is an original term. That comes from the caveman. Right. That comes from not stealing my rock, you steal my ball. That's an original term. And then don't do something and go tell on it. So it's crazy. I had this conversation the other day, and I was talking to this young man, and I was telling him that it's a difference. If you have somebody who goes and because they break it in houses now, and it's like a big thing. Right. But you break in my house and you steal stuff from my house. and this is an older lady, and she has no way of defending herself. She don't have no sons to address the issue, but you took advantage of an older person.
Right.
One, you didn't even go take it. You broke in her house and you stole it from her.
Right.
So I'm not going to say she a snitch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because she defended her property the only way she has the ability to do it.
Right.
Now, if me and you go commit a crime,
right,
and I tell anything about that,
right,
then that's snitching.
Right.
You know what I mean? If we in affiliation, or even if I'm not a part of your crime,
right,
and I know you did that crime, that's snitching.
Right.
If I go on to Instagram and I'm reposting a crime that somebody did, that is snitching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's different levels to this shit, but it's all the same thing.
Right.
A woman who can't defend herself.
Right.
That's not snitching. You know what I'm saying? Then I was looking at the R. Kelly situation, right? That's what's really popular.
Yeah, because that's even a lot of cats is coming out when other things are coming out. Like, oh, why you snitching? Why you getting involved in that business? They ain't got nothing to do with you.
You know, I mean, I look at different media platforms. If you're trying to build a media platform, you have a right to discuss all of that. Because then that would be saying, oh, ABC could talk about it, NBC could talk about it.
But we can't talk about it.
But we can't talk about it. That don't make no sense.
Right.
I mean, we're creating your own platform. It's a blog. You're doing whatever you're doing. You should talk about all the relevant issues.
Right.
And we should be able to talk about the relevant issues in our community.
Right, absolutely.
That's very important that we talk about those because we need to put our own spin on it.
Right.
I was just reading this morning, I think my business partner sent me a thing where they about to do one on Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I heard about this.
You know, we at some point have to feel like we have ownership in the people that's a part of our community. I remember Bill Cosby era.
Right.
I was a youngster in Bill Cosby era.
Facts.
And if we all go and admit it and keep it 100, we was probably all saying everybody wanted. Remember Spanish Fly? You younger than us. So everybody was saying, you get the Spanish Fly, you give it to the girl. You know.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm 52 years old. But we got a lot of dudes who come and say that they was the queen of the ball, they didn't do nothing wrong.
Right.
That is inaccurate.
Absolutely.
That is inaccurate. We lived in an era where people were, we come from an era and we were trained by people who were less than honorable.
Right.
So we took on the traits that they had and we did the things that they did.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But we had to survive.
But Bill's era, that was the thing that they did.
Yeah, and he made jokes about it.
They all made jokes about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of them did it. You know what I mean? They was the thing. What, they get the Spanish Fly, they get the girl high, they do this.
Right.
What R. Kelly did and was supposed to be accused of is something different to me. I don't know I don't know the man's mentality. I haven't had a conversation with R. Kelly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I've never preyed on a little girl either, though.
Right.
I ain't preyed on a little girl nor a little boy,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
And the other thing, I mean, the bigger part of that conversation, and you know, we talked about it, because I do know R. Kelly, and I think I know his heart in that idea of however far you want to take it back to relationships. In his mind, he doesn't think he did anything wrong, because he then gives those examples of this was consensual. You know, and now, regardless of what age it is, because then when we start having these conversations about, oh, she's 16 and 15 or whatever the age number is, then we got to play that same game across the board with everyone. And that's why people get mad at me, but I bring up, talk about Elvis, who met Priscilla at 13. You know what I mean? We talk about...
She was 13?
13. So it's like, it's these are the things, but we want to tear down black men and turn them into monsters, but we don't want to talk about all y'all rock and roll greats. And then the idea of like, you know, only two places, and I by no means am I advocating, you know, older men and young girls. I'm just stating facts right here. The consensual age in most of America is 16. The only two places that it's 18 is in California and in New York. And everywhere else, it's 16, a couple places that are 17. Yeah. In Japan, it's 13. So we just gonna throw all of Japan away? Like the consensual age in Japan is 13. Right. I find that ridiculous because I have a daughter, and I know my daughter ain't talking to nobody at 13.
Not even another 13-year-old.
Exactly. So, but these are just things that let's have the entire conversation, and that's what these kind of platforms are for. And that's it. And the only reason why I wanted to put at least set the table with the snitching conversation, because you are probably the most solid, or one of the most solid, because I know quite a few solid guys, but I always say I could count on my hand the solid people in the community. And because you have such great power in this community, specifically in Los Angeles and California, that you're a leader. And a lot of conversations that we have here at Cannon's class are about leadership and people that I admire as leaders. And within the gang culture and beyond, you come from a culture and then you've expanded it and grown, and that in itself is to be it is commendable and is to be honored. So I want to go back now that we've set the table about what that is, and we even touched on some interesting topics that we could come back to. But now I need some education on gang culture, specifically in Los Angeles and in general, because I hear so many things. So I want to just say a few of the things that I think I know, and then I would love to hear your involvement in how, from where you're from, how you came about and how you play into the ultimate gang culture that goes on. And when I say gang culture in Southern California, it's Bloods and Crips that have now become a global culture, and some places glorified for the right and wrong reasons. So ultimately, when I hear the word gang and in the research that I did, gangs in America were most prevalent in I think it was more the early 1900s in Chicago, in New York, specifically amongst the Italian and the Jewish communities.
Exactly.
And which then some of it turned into what we know as the mafia. But then after some interesting things went on, obviously the black people in those communities, specifically Chicago, they had to start rallying together and protect themselves against the Italians. It was a race thing. And from there, that's where we started hearing about the Stones. That's where we started hearing about Jeff Ford, the Vice Lords, Gangster Disciples, all of that stuff in Chicago. And then that culture shifted a lot towards the West Coast, and during the time of like COINTELPRO, which anybody knows that's when the FBI came at the black community, specifically around the Black Panthers, when the Black Panthers started in Oakland and started to have different sects all over, and people just really wanted to be a part of this Black Panther movement. COINTELPRO, which is counterintelligence, the FBI created an entire department.
Whole department.
To break up, they put crack cocaine in our communities, they put HIV in our communities, they did all this stuff just to break up the power that black people were coming together with. And during that process, that's what broke down our communities. And we actually, from gentrification in places like Compton and South Central, there's this stuff going on called white flight, where
and then back.
And white people we had to defend ourselves in California, so we created these gangs. And amongst these gangs were the Crips and the Bloods. And that started early 70s.
It got a name in 69.
69.
You know what I'm saying? With Raymond Watchford, and then more from there. But prior to
I'm going to let you tell it. Because this is just kind of, like I said, I'm setting the table, but it sounds like, at what point did it start here in Los Angeles? And then where was your involvement in your neighborhood?
I was a baby.
Right.
So it really started with like gangs like the Slauson Boys, the Newtons, and all them who were the fathers who eventually became the fathers of the Crips and the Bloods, or the big brothers and uncles of the Crips and the Bloods. But it kind of started with them was the first one. So if you get L.A., this is the West Side. Let's say from Broadway and West. Then you got on the East Side was really where most of the blacks lived.
Right.
And so now you got those different gangs that was already here, who was before the Crips and Bloods, the Businessmen, the Slauson Boys, and all them. So the West was still, like our area where I live in Crenshaw area, Road 60s, was still white.
Right.
It was still white. They didn't build Crenshaw until like 67, 66, something like that. I can't remember exactly what year they built Crenshaw. So blacks was still on the east side. It wasn't until blacks started coming and was allowed to buy West. to buy property and started coming west. That the white gangs who was on this side, white boys would intimidate them, beat them because they started,
Because there was a culture in California that blacks could not live in certain neighborhoods.
We couldn't come across.
You couldn't even come across.
Right. We did all our shopping on Vermont.
Yeah.
Like at one time, Vermont was the mecca of shopping.
Right.
That's where black people walking up and down Vermont. Like you see the Vermont now this is where everybody went. You didn't go past Vermont because it was unsafe.
Wow.
And then and if you was wealthy, you just lived on the other side of Vermont.
Wow.
And then as blacks started getting wealthy, we started being allowed to move certain places, and they started allowing us to buy stuff. Whites found more refuge and moving to the valley and all these other places.
You got the fuck up out of it. White flight was real.
Real.
Yeah.
So it gave birth. You started seeing gangs move west.
Right.
And then that's when, right at that time, about 10 or 15 years after that, Raymond Washington came up with the Crips.
Right.
And let me go back to that to address what it was. Well, we are the children of we're not the children of Malcolm and Martin.
Right.
We're the children of Superfly. So the biggest change is, and I want to do a movie on this to let people see, is when I was younger, I watched our people go from the afros,
the conscious community,
consciousness, and it was almost crazy because it was one movie that came out,
right?
That and with the growth for the Crips and Bloods,
right?
And one movie that came out that changed the whole
paradigm, the perception. We just went in a different direction.
A whole different direction. It was like I woke up, and my uncles weren't about the Black Power movement no more. Then you had the death of Malcolm, you had the death of Martin,
right.
And then Superfly. So now everybody want to use cocaine, want to get high, and
want to be fly,
want to drown. To me, as I got older, it was more like drowning the pain. You know what I mean? And really seeing the reality that what world we live in. So in that, you start seeing the growth of the Crips and Bloods.
Right.
And people don't understand how young they were when the Crips and Bloods were formed.
Right.
My uncles was original Crips.
Right.
We lived on 81st Hoover, 79th and Hoover, and all up and down Hoover.
Right.
And my uncles was original Crips.
Right.
Then that's when it came. The street was Hoover Crip, and then from there we moved to the West Side.
Right.
From the West Side, it wasn't even the Rolling 60 yet.
Right.
We wasn't even a gang yet in 70, 71, 72 when we moved over in the hood.
Right.
My mother still lived over in the Hoovers. So when the 60s started forming, then you start seeing the VNGs, then you see the Jungles, T. Rogers them in the Jungles. Then you start hearing about, because it was almost like you started hearing people talking about these different gangs performing,
right?
But it wasn't really no truth to it,
right?
So, and we all used to say blood, which is funny.
Really? Well, the blood was a term that means right. we brothers. That's my blood right there.
And the older guys called you young blood.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. Be honest with you, I gotta be like 79. We got the Horsemen. If you was a Crip, you couldn't say blood no more.
Right.
And then you couldn't say blood no more. Period.
Right.
And so at the time, all the original Blood sets, who eventually became Bloods, were still on the wild, but they didn't want to be Crips because
right.
either they was beefing with the Crips over whatever issue,
right?
And you had like teenagers,
right?
So let me set the stage. The Crips come from Raymond Washington. Now it's moving west. You got youngsters who are at that age and want to join something, want to be about something,
just want to be a part of something,
want to be a part of something
for protection, to feel like. If they didn't have a father in the household, mm-hmm. outside they can go and be a part of something and see some men being men, right. and at least see a trajectory and be proud to be like the big homie.
It was a structure, because I remember when we used to go to Centennial Park, and we were real young.
Right.
We were young, man. Because back then you could be 11, 12, 9, 10, and you could be all the way on the other side of town on your bike.
On your bike, just riding.
And it didn't matter. You didn't really have to worry about the stuff you have to worry about today. So we would be with the big homies going to Centennial Park, going to Van Ness Park, and then Centennial Park turned into the big Crip meetings.
when did obviously the Bloods were created to protect themselves from the Crips.
A lot of them had started beefing, so
Right.
it was kind of like with us and the A-Trey gangsters. We was friends first, and then whatever I know what the beef was, but
Money, territory.
Really over some girls arguing.
Really?
Yes, it was some girls.
Wow,
arguing.
women.
But let me give you 79, because 79 is really what people don't get. It was Bloods and Crips that was growing, but the violence in L.A. didn't really start happening until the Rolling Sixties and the A-Trey started beefing. That's when it went to like a heightened violence.
Really?
So up until 79, there was really like the not World on Will, the
World on Will.
Joe LeBeau skate ring. The World on Will was not even an event. It was Joe LeBeau. It's skate ring on Western, then the skate ring in the 20s. I can't remember the names.
Right. It was a while ago.
But this is where everybody went.
Right.
On Vermont, there was a skate ring. Then on up in the 20s, there was a skate ring, which came a little later. Rose Can skate ring. Then I can't remember what the Vermont skate ring was called. But this is where we all went. Mm-hmm. And then we seen where dudes were starting to claim different sets. And so when the Crips started saying somewhere along there, like 71, 72, they started allowing you to become different Crip sets. Like
now, was there a meeting of the leader of the Crips? Like, okay, your neighborhood, you could
Randy Washington,
you could be the Crippin' over here. Y'all can have this set. Y'all can have this set.
Yep.
And we all still gonna bond together.
Yep. You had to actually. They was having meetings. Tookie and them used to have meetings.
There was a code.
There was a code, and they was saying if you want to start your own set, these are the rules you have to have. And you want to do another Crip set, you had to apply for it. So
now are those rules and regulations secret amongst Crips, or is that something that's just known? Like to have your own Crip set, you must do A, B, and C.
I can't even tell you because I wasn't old enough to be there.
Right.
But I know these was meetings.
Right.
Like you couldn't just go say at that. Like
we gonna start our own Crip set in
you couldn't do that
in Malibu.
No, because they was gonna pull up on you, want to check you. Like,
yeah,
who gave you that permission?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's what we moved away from. And then, like I said, so in my mind, let me just structure. So you got the Crip starting to form.
Right.
Now they going from being 16, 17 to being 20, 21. Now they introducing themselves to drugs, hard drugs, Tookie, for instance.
Yeah.
And from doing that, they start to, experiment. And now you got them doing crime. So now it go from being something that was formed to be something positive to where the access to drugs, to being able to hang out, not have to go home, not having no responsibility, it does something to any young man or woman. You know what I mean? So it just we didn't put the structure in. I lived in Chicago, so in Chicago, I got kicked out of California and had to stay in Chicago for crimes against California. But in Chicago, they had laws. We never implemented the laws in California. You know what I mean?
Right.
You had to know.
So the code was a little loose out here in California.
Yeah, it was a lot loose. It was a lot loose. And we never got the laws.
You're right.
We never got the actual structure.
Right.
To actually say, well, to be this, you have to do this. Know your laws. You have to. You can't just
come to the meetings. All of that.
You got to know your laws. You have
right.
to like it to be in Chicago. You had to know what the law of the day.
Right.
You had to know who the general was. You had to know who this was. They had more of a structure.
They call them chiefs in Chicago.
Yeah, you call
gang chiefs, and the people who set the laws and make sure you following the code.
And that is 100% accurate. So you had to know that. But in L.A., we didn't know that. So what happens in L.A. is 1979 is the biggest influence, is the major change in L.A. It heightened everything. When the Rolling Sixties and A-Trey started fighting, it was the first time the two Crip sets started fighting each other. It split L.A. into neighborhood fractions and to the gangsters. But you had to go from maybe in all involved shootings, you may have had 5 at the most throughout L.A. between Crips and Bloods and Crips and all that, to where when the Rolling Sixties and A-Trey started fighting, it was probably 10 murders in less than a month.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then the newspaper got on it over some girls arguing over who was harder.
Wow.
The newspaper got involved, and they did an article, and I never forget it. I was in 7th grade at West Bend, and they said, well, a notorious a notorious gang. They call themselves the Rolling Six. They did an article, and it was in the Sentinel newspaper, and that only took it to another height. So now you got Monster Cody, my homies. Monster Cody is 2 to 3 years older than me, but we in the 7th grade. So now it's like everybody got to go. Now Rennie gets killed, Six Pack get killed, and they saying that the A-Trays did.
So I'm gonna just pause for a quick second because I've always wondered this, and it just goes back to who we are as a people. So we're a people. Of our nature. We're not a violent people.
No.
As African, we when we use terms like "cuz," that's my family. That blood, that's my
That's
blood.
what that means.
That's like we all want to come together. The reason why we create gangs is so we can protect one another. And ultimately, if it all came from the ideas of like the Panthers and protecting our communities, but if you challenge us, if you take from me, if you steal from me, if you harm one of mine, I'm gonna harm 2 of yours.
Right, that's the mentality.
That's the mentality that we have, which isn't a wrong mentality but we've torn ourselves down because society, the system, the elites see that we have so much passion and love for one another that if they can get us to turn against each other, everyone will be annihilated. So at what point, because like you said, because a lot of people think, oh, we fighting for this block or for this color, when it's really not that. It's fighting for the love of each other. So when you take one of mine, I gotta take 2 of yours.
Yeah.
And then until, as in, you can do the pebble game until there ain't gonna be no more pebbles left on the table. Right, so how, at what point, what's the mindset of once someone, I gotta deal with the repercussions, I gotta get into it. Someone has to go because you took from me. Because that seems like that's when it just went crazy. Like you said, 10 murders
it went crazy
in a couple of days. Like that's
in a couple of months. Yeah, it was like over a month time between, and then that split LA. But let me tell you where we are right now today. This is the exciting part of what we do, the work I do with developing option. So right now today, in LA, the gang violence is the lowest it's been since 1965. Since 1961.
Wow.
That's
to be
5
commended.
years before the Crips and Bloods started.
That's to be commended. That's beautiful.
You know what I mean? So we are lower now.
Yeah.
And
that's
I've been home 16 years.
Yeah, and you should be applauded as well as everyone that you work with in your organization, because that's what I really wanted to touch on, because as we're talking about the original gang culture, and which is quite fascinating, the gang culture today is super changed. It's way more organized. I see so much respect
for people, right,
amongst the different sets.
Yeah.
But again, going back to seeing how it got heightened.
Yeah.
It was ultimately because you was just protecting your own.
It was, we come from, and you going back to the original, what it was formed for.
Yeah.
It wasn't formed out of let's go fight and kill each other.
Yeah.
It was actually, the thought was a community. You know what I mean? And it was about building community and being able to go, like I said, we couldn't come from the east side to the west side. And the white boys ran everything. And then we see the police department, it's the same way. It wasn't just the white boys in the community. It was the police department also, who were saying, and even to this day in certain parts of this country, who will tell you if you're driving through certain neighborhoods in Atlanta, in LA, or
Florida,
somewhere, you're going to get pulled over for driving while black.
Yeah.
You're going to get shot for driving while black. Well, these are the things that make people want to defend themselves.
And protect themselves.
And that's what the Crips and Bloods was. But I want to say this. We, as intelligent men of our age, we haven't, we are doing it. It's a slow motion. We are finally starting to reach that natural age where we grow and become men and leaders who are leading in the right direction. By far, it is the work that we are doing today is not just me at all. I'm a person who came home and who organized my organization in a way to where I can go hire dudes from every set.
Smart.
And what I would, because the way the city does it, because I get employment from the city to do what we're doing. It was an idea that was formed by Dianne Feinstein. I don't know where she got it from. Let me say that, because it may have been a bunch of black people who wrote it.
Right.
But right now we have a bunch of black men who are conscious, who are trying to move in a different direction, and you need that.
Correct.
When I was in prison, I did 13 years in prison. So we were very violent against each other because of the ignorance that we had taught ourselves to be a part of. You can't like him because he's a blood. You can't like him because he's a Crip. But it's a generation of men who had to be with each other, who had to have each other back, if for nothing else, just because of the color of my skin.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? And we learned that condition, like the book says, unfortunately, we're going to make you have to ride with yourself.
Yeah.
So I could never in my life, after that, see myself beefing with a man because he said he a blood, and he looked like me.
So you pretty much, you say when you in the penitentiary,
you gonna learn.
The blacks got to get together with the blacks.
Oh, you got to.
You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, you got to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You got to learn. And our problem was, and our problem is still today, is we don't value education. You know what I mean?
You say that again. We don't value education.
We don't value education.
Right.
And even in the gang culture right now, the most ignorant person
is the most glorified person.
Is the most glorified.
Yeah.
You know
crazy.
What I mean?
He wild.
He'll fight anybody. He'll jump in the streets. Well, if we start thinking like, okay, you need to be able to fight.
Yeah.
Because America has the biggest army in the world.
Right.
So we know that you have to be able to fight.
Yeah. They taught us that.
Yeah, and they show it every day on CNN, like we dominating the world.
Right.
But you have to have something behind that.
If it's some substance.
You have to have that behind that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, where are we? Where are we if nothing else? I cannot go. I don't know how to do nothing but read. I mean, I don't have nothing to do but fight. I can't read.
Right.
I cannot properly represent myself. You know, and look at my brother Mike. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whole lot of money. Was a great fighter. But now, you got to do something different. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And who was also a very intelligent man. People don't know how intelligent Mike Tyson is. Yeah, but he found out that it wasn't all about this. He had to go educate himself.
You have to learn how to control your money.
All right.
You know, and then look at us. Unfortunately, the system is made up to where we have to struggle from behind.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you go get an education or you consider yourself, or you get good grades, you're the nerd. But that term only works on us in our community.
Everybody else want to be a nerd. Nerds get rich and then get the girls.
What man? I went to Facebook and I went to Google down here. These are the nerds running the world.
Billionaires.
Starting off at $100 and some $1,000 a year. We aspiring to be rappers.
They're employees.
We wake up and want to get a check. A book I always want to. I want to leave this with this. If you don't do nothing else, if you want to listen to me, go get this book called Visions for Black Men by Naeem Akbar.
Yes, Visions.
It was
for
one
Black
of the books
men.
and it talks about boyhood, malehood, and manhood. And it talks about how as a boy, you want to just run around and have toys. As a male, which you are defined by 3 inches from your belly button, defines you a male. That's what you define by. So you live by that. You want to have sex, you dominate that. You go to this, you want to have loud music, you want to have a car, you want to drive fast.
Right.
Now, this is where 90% of hip hop is.
Right, in malehood.
We're stuck in malehood.
Right.
Male dominance, malehood. Manhood is when you start saying you understand government. You understand building businesses. You understand being responsible. You understand relationships. You understand now that I need to give back and take control of my community.
Facts.
We have the majority of us, and we see we're stuck in the middle. We're stuck in the malehood. Yeah, I'm a man. My bravado, this. Dudes talk to me all the time. They talk about what I used to be. But my whole thing is, no, you need to figure out where I am now. You need to figure out now that, because most people don't think I can even speak. So, and when you say that, you figure where their mentality is, because they want Big U to stay. I got to be Big U I was when I was 30. I mean, I was 25, 26 years old. But you get to become the man. Big U got to stay in the,
as a male.
Yeah, I got to stay in the male. So,
but you gained a lot of respect.
No, I used that.
Yeah, so even to get to that space where as a male you gained all of this respect, but now as a man,
you have to be able to use it.
You have to be able to use it
and give back. And give back. Like I studied Genghis Khan. I used to study different people. You know, and I studied the Bible profusely. And it's funny because I used to debate people about the Bible in the lexicon. I used to use that to destroy people's
perception and concept.
No right.
Yeah. You breaking down their faith, but you were trying to enlighten them.
Right.
You say there's so much more. Don't just
They've
follow what they feed you.
They've never read the book.
Because the preacher said it. It must be in it.
That's
it must be right. It made me feel
good.
The
preacher gonna give it to you like this.
Right.
He gonna go give it to you the same way.
Right.
The slave preacher got it. That he gonna give it to you the same way he got it.
And he gonna put some extra around it to make you feel good, but you got to go read it for yourself and not just read that, read this, read that, and then come up. That's how I always try free thinking. Just come up with these concepts for yourself. Ask these questions. That's why we sitting here. So I see that process of understanding and just to circle back to the idea of manhood and being a leader in your community and where the gangs are today. And
where we need to be tomorrow.
and where really it's such a code. It's such an aspect of being solid, being real, focusing on being a man and being a man of your word and a man of integrity. So when when we see a lot of these young guys, everybody, first everybody went in the 90s, everybody wanted to be a Crip. You know what I mean? Like especially Snoop came out and all this, and you saw. First when you saw early in the '80s when you saw NWA doing it, they looked like they was cripping, but nobody actually officially said it. But we was feeling like, okay, they feel like Crips.
Doughboy,
right?
Doughboy and Boys in the Hood.
And by that time when you saw Boys in the Hood and Ice Cube, and then so all of the night, and then Snoop came out, and it was just like. That everybody wanted to be a Crip. Everybody started Crip walking, and then there was a shift, and then everybody all of a sudden wanted to be a Blood. And you actually saw, this was mind blowing to me, and I guess because I grew up out here. You saw cats who was Crips last year, there was Bloods the next year. Like to me, I couldn't understand that concept because where I'm from. That's the ultimate sin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It still is, but I mean, hey.
But then to me, I was like, okay, now they fabricated the culture, they watered it down, and now they playing with it. So now you got everybody could be Blood. You can have rainbow hair and be a Blood, and to me, it's like, wow, the code was being so focused on and being solid, but now. They turned it into a fantasy. They turned it into something playful and a fairy tale. How do you deal with that as someone who's focusing on manhood, the code, the everybody staying solid in their community, but then there's so many people playing with it that aren't even representing it the right way and just picked it up and said, okay, I'm gonna start banging to get the likes up.
It's so crazy because we deal with it so much, but I just try to stay solid in the ones in what I do and what I'm doing and giving back. You know what I mean? And try to stay focused on where we need to be. Because there's a lot of solid dudes in LA who pushing that line. You know what I mean? For making everybody honor the culture. But when you over on a whole other coast, you over in some other place, it's hard for real solid dudes to get there. It's crazy because when I was saying I was coming here, I want to talk about the fact that we don't honor the right people. Like, you get a mic and you get success, right? And now you become the voice, right? That's backwards. Where the dudes in the neighborhoods? You know what I'm saying? Right. It's good. Dudes in each neighborhood who really help birth that neighborhood, right? Who really are not being honored as the people who should be speaking. Right. You know what I mean? I can give a whole laundry list of people from New York who are solid dudes, from LA who are solid dudes, from Atlanta who are solid dudes, from Chicago. But they not the ones who get in the mic. I'm champion their cause. And I always hear people talk about checking in. I check in all the time.
You have to.
Any state I go to, I'm going to pull up and I'm going to check. If you want to call it checking in, I'm going to check in. I'm going to holler at whoever there. Blood, cuz, or whatever have you, GD, Life Store.
You looking for the solid people in that community.
Because I want to be around solid dudes. You know what I mean? I was in New York, right? And I called some of the homies. I'm like, man, they got me out here in not Manhattan, in downtown. It ain't nothing but tall Russians running around here. Where the black people at? My first time in New York. I'm saying, man, take me where our people are. Not, and there ain't no race thing. It's just that I feel comfortable looking in the mirror.
Around my people.
I feel comfortable looking in the mirror. I like looking in the mirror. That means I'm looking in the mirror right now.
Absolutely.
But we honor the buffoons. And our culture has taken us to right now. You got kids getting on the phone, on these mics and getting on stage and on these blogs, and they talking about they using PCP, heroin, cocaine, methazine, and all this. This is what they doing, and it's being honored. That's our problem. And it's only gonna get worse for us. We have been able to heal us for the gang violence, where our babies killing ourselves. That number is the lowest it's been in the history of gang banging.
It's amazing.
But there's a number that's growing though. The death for the addiction, the death of people killing themselves,
right?
Mental illness,
right?
We see autism growing because these white folks is poisoning our babies
with these vaccines.
We see this growing.
Absolutely.
I was a part of a movie that pushed around the country, but we, as a people, are not saying be responsible for the content that is being allowed to go. Look at your show right here.
Right here.
I got one that's going to disturb a lot of people, right? One of our biggest voices was made to apologize for saying Jew or something about he want to get some Jewish money.
Right.
But everybody can say nigga. Ain't nobody. Now, the same people who
Donald
made
Trump
him
done said nigga and he ain't apologized for it.
Everybody can say it. You know what I'm saying? But they're going to make our kids, if you say Jew this, hike me, anything, it's over. It's stopped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't know. But
right.
Then they let you know that they still run the industry. You can't get a check. And I feel like at some point when I was in prison, I did 13 years. I did 3 years and 9 months in the hole, and I used to sit down and write, and I used to read. I read every book I can get in my hand. I don't care what it was. If I get a book, I didn't read entertainment. I didn't read that. I didn't want to put nothing in my
only something
brain.
that could feed you.
Yes, that's it. So I read all day long, all night, and I worked out. But in all that I read the dominance of the Jews, and then when you get home, you start to see.
It's real.
To the Jew is real, and not because they are bad people.
They smart
because
people.
They're unified.
They're unified people that come together.
Crips and Bloods, our only standing army. So, our only standing brain trust, our only standing group of men who come together. If we take that group of men
and empower them,
and my point. If we take that group of men and say, okay, we're going to help you become something different so you can lead differently.
There it is.
Now we immediately build a brain trust of men who like to be together. We immediately build a group of people who build and help their community.
You create a network.
They already associate themselves as different branches in different cities. But the minute you try to form there, we go back to what you said, the first thing you said, COINTEL.
Yeah, right.
COINTEL. So now I become a threat.
Right.
Because I'm not moving like I was moving at first.
Yeah, that counterintelligence.
Because I'm not trying to kill black people, hurt black people.
Now you're trying to empower them.
But I become a threat. Because that's called organization, and you're organizing organized crime. They invented a law in California to give you 10 more years because they're saying if you go out and you're a gang affiliate and you commit a crime, that what money you were making was going to be to the furtherance or the improvement of that gang.
Right.
That's another 30-year enhancement. It's a 30-year enhancement.
Wow.
That's still relevant to this day.
To this day.
So me and you, if we talk about helping black people, we are guilty.
You're guilty of that.
You know, of telling people to go and change their lives.
Wow.
But we got to take that chance, though.
We have to take that chance.
You know what I mean?
We have to. It's as
every
men,
single day.
We have to do it.
You got to take that chance.
And you touch on something that I think people gonna have to rewatch this to see how deep that actually is because we all say, oh, we need to come together. the Bloods and the Crips are together.
They are.
And they're like you said, that's our military force.
More babies, man.
Yeah, and if you understand the power that you have within your community, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it comes from a place that we all understand, follow the code, and operate within love for the love of your man to protect our family, we could take over.
It's there. But it needs people to have, like, people like yourself, myself, and other people to understand that if we nurture it the right way, if we get them off of, because I see a lot of youngsters, parents will call me like, my son is going to do this, my son is doing that, and then I'm like, okay, well, he looking for something, because that's what I was. I was looking for something. I felt like, unfortunately, school wasn't going to be it for me.
Right.
I felt like that was a bar that I wasn't going to reach. I wasn't an A student. I wasn't making these kind of grades. I didn't understand what school would do for me. So I was denigrating, and I said, well, let me denigrate and go hang. And so now we got people denigrating, and now they only playing video games.
That's all they do.
They're not going to go hang in the streets, but they playing the video games sitting at home.
Indeed.
That's another form of denigration because you're not getting out the house and moving. So now you got these parents who saying, well, get out the house and go do something. So what are you going to get out the house and go do? Because he don't know how to play video games in his mind. He don't understand that, listen, all you got to do is start being creative. And
or even in that process of video games, take it one step further. Put a camera on and create something while you playing them games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but being creative.
Being creative.
You know, being creative, trying to figure out how we're going to work through this.
And get
but we got
it.
a lot of dudes, man, like Wacko and Compton.
Yeah.
We got my boy and them on the east side, dudes who are moving and who are really trying to restructure. T. Rogers and them in the jungles. We got certain dudes who are really moving hard. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it ain't just about entertainment, but that's the stuff that you don't ever see.
Right.
And the reason why this platform is very valuable is because we get knocked so much. And I mean, not even by y'all, because the first thing we get knocked for is our past, and people don't understand that logically, I'm the only one your son gonna respect.
Absolutely.
He's gonna respect.
That's what I was talking about. That
walk
respect.
in
Yeah,
life.
what you went through.
What I went through.
You went through what he going through.
Exactly.
So you're the only one that can relate to him on that level. So and within that question, because I've always wanted to ask this, and this is an honest question, even for myself, I struggle with this. When is violence okay?
Well, violence is okay to defend yourself, to further the movement. You know what I'm saying? If it's a positive and honest movement, you know what I mean? Because I'm going to walk out this door and I still got to reserve my life. I still got to know that if I go in certain places, I'm still Big U. You know what I mean? Even though I move different and I help people, that don't mean that this youngster not knowing that his big homies, I'm coming to see his big homeboy. All he knows is that going to Big U a point. You know what I mean? Violence is necessary when unfortunately, Idi Amin said it. He said to 100 people, he said, who want freedom? He said, who all want freedom? Put their hands up. He said, who all ready to kill for freedom? Only 40 put their hands up. He said, arm the 40. You got to kill a 60 because guess what? They the ones gonna tell on you.
Yeah. That's
They're the ones not
the
gonna
weakest
support
links.
you. They're the ones not. If you're not willing to die and kill for freedom or change, then you know you gonna accept where you are.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be. We're not gonna see change, and you don't change, and people don't change until they are 100% fed up. You could be 70%, 80%, 99%, but it's until you are 100% fed up that your body and your mind and your spirit makes change. Violence is always necessary, unfortunately, because if I have something, if I have your book, and you notice your book, at some point, you're going to need to struggle to take your book back. Or it's going to be a struggle to keep your book.
Facts.
These people have our mind. They have our industry. They dominate the hip-hop industry to now.
Facts.
We used to dominate, never owned. There was an age when I was incarcerated, I used to watch you, I watched you grow into.
Right.
I was a fan of yours. I watched you grow into becoming an owner.
Absolutely.
From being a youngster to becoming an owner to me and you sitting here. From the cage, I was in a cage.
Right.
Watched you. I watched Master P, who I'm a fan of. I watched Puffy, Snoop, and I watched all of these people build their industries. And I'm a fan of men who come from somewhere and who have to fight. Not just physically, man, not just mentally, but vitally build what they have. And I respect everything that these dudes do and have done. And I love the fact that they, because for me, they were for me. You know what I mean? Because I was able to see a picture of black men building something and having to
for themselves, for their community.
This is what I think we don't respect enough of, and people don't know that I respect that of people. You know what I mean? Because
it's good to hear. That's what to hear that.
Oh yeah,
let everybody know that someone who is respected respects others that are moving the culture forward.
Man, definitely, and that's the fight. That's the violence, because it's being taken over. What's on now? I see the different blogs who now control hip hop. Who can tell you who a star is? Who can tell you, who
gives you that shot to take it to that next level?
And it's them.
Right.
It's not us in these offices. It's not us running Interscope.
Right.
It's not us running Sony. It's not us running the radio stations. It's not us doing that. And
it's still the gatekeepers.
Oh yeah, it's the owners.
Yeah.
I tell my son all the time, everything I'm doing becomes yours. And then when you come out of college, my youngest son, he's in college right now, and I got two other sons who took the other part of Big U. You know what I mean? So I'm a living example of
it can go
any way. Yeah. The absence of a father led my other sons to go and do and take the mindset of what the stories they heard of Big U, and then that's more what they built off of. And I'm trying to take my youngest sons and his friends and let them know that, look, build off of this Big U. Because I'm not going to change my name.
Not the male Big U, but the man Big U.
The man Big U. You know what I'm saying? You have a choice to see, you know what I mean, what I was and what I'm trying to build. And it's still a fight. It's still a fight because some dudes will come and say, well, Big U ain't this, Big U ain't that. I accept that. I enjoying that. Big U did this. I enjoying that because I understand that there's a fight. When I was in the airport. One dude walked up to me. He the same age I am. He's with his daughter and his wife. He said, man, you Big U? And I'm like, yeah. Shook his hand. He said, you the Big U from Rolling 60 Crip? I said, I just laughed. I said, whatever, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm like, bruh, do you see any of the stuff I do?
Right. That's
the one thing. Do you see any of the stuff I have done over the years? You my age. Like,
Right. And that's
so then you gonna walk off and that's all your daughter knows. Yeah, he's big.
That's what you want to glorify.
I got so many kids in college. I got kids in the NFL right now that came through my program.
Right.
I got over 1,000 kids that came through our program that I've helped that's in college, right? They've been through college already, out of college, that's working. Joining the police department, doing other things, some that's in jail, some. But, I mean, I have helped more people than I was even able to help my own sons because sons listen to other people than they listen to their daddy. You know what I mean? It's just a natural thing. I don't know what it is, but I can help somebody else's son immediately. Like, look, man, don't do this. Follow this. Let me help you get this. And will listen to me profusely.
Right.
You know what I mean? And follow everything I say. But my own is different, man. They
take it for granted.
I don't want to do nothing. He didn't get high. Right. So, look. Let me say this to you, too. Everybody think you got to use drugs to be relevant. I never got high.
Never
got high. Well, I got high, I think, once maybe when I was 18. Yeah, when I was 18, I got drunk. Never got high. That wasn't my thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I can't understand to this day no real gangster that get high.
Right.
Because you can't be no real gangster, nigga, if you high.
If your mind
and you ain't on point.
Yeah, you got to be on point.
You ain't on point.
How you going to stand on your square when you stumbling?
So now you knocked out because you drunk.
Right.
You know what I mean? You ain't no real hustler if you really out, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
don't get high on your own supply if you in these streets. That's just it's the code.
That was the original saying. And they don't say that no more.
Right.
Don't get high. Wait a minute. Where the camera?
Yeah, right there. There you go.
This camera right here.
Yeah.
The original saying was, don't get high on your own supply. So you ain't no real one if you getting high.
That's facts.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, what was it? Every time you see one of their movies they follow, when the person is about to go down, that's when he get high.
Right.
The number one movie in the world, Scarface.
That's when he said. That's when he finally got. That's when he went on.
Shooting like a bug.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at that point, you know you're about to go down.
Yeah.
So when he wasn't, what was he doing? He was about his business. He was focused. I'm building this. I want this.
That's that. Wow, I didn't even look at it like that.
They tell you in the
straight
movie.
the whole time in the movie until it was time to go down.
Now he got plates everywhere. He gassed up.
Yeah. So and the other thing, since in code as well, we talked about the violent nature of it. Fear / intimidation. It feels like the gang culture. That's what it's built on. Even when you got to come to LA and check in, and then everything is like, yo, I'm here to protect you because the wolves is out there.
Right.
And the wolves are set in place to implement fear and intimidation. Where does that fear and intimidation come from, and who should it be directed towards?
It comes from the United States of America.
Say that again. The corporation of the United States of America.
Because we intimidate, as Americans, we intimidate the whole world.
We the bullies.
We the bullies of the whole world, without a doubt.
Right.
And that's where that comes from.
That's that culture.
Comes from, and I was talking
now,
about.
And is that a wrong thing?
To me, it's not.
Because to be the leader of the free world, to be the leader of your community, you have to be respected, and with respect comes fear and intimidation from others. True or not true?
It's true. I feel like this. Let me say this as far as me. If you coming out here to LA all the time, and you're not doing nothing for the kids, you're not doing nothing.
You soaking up our community and not feeding into and not giving back.
You should. Now, here go the other side of it. Why I gotta help everybody? Well, you just moved here. Now you a part of here.
Right.
That's why you should help here. If you didn't live here, you in New York, you just flying in.
You should always feed into your community, no matter where it is. If you have an abundance, why not spread it? Why not share it? We're blessed, so we could be a blessing. Too much is given, much is required. There's a reason why those are the cats that aren't leaders. They not bosses. They just want to soak it up for themselves.
I'm gonna tell you this: if you call it whatever you want to, call it paying dues. I paid dues. I'm a hustler. I paid dues. I took care of my homeboys because I had it.
Right.
I bought TVs for my homeboys. I still take care of my homeboys in jail. I take care of their kids. My homeboys in jail, their kids play for our football program, sports program.
And it's not because you have to, it's because you want to. That's what being solid is all about.
And I guess that's what, so my mentality is that if you come in here, you should help that. You know what I mean? I guess I'm going to continue to be Big U because I'm going to say that if you're not helping nobody, you should be helping somebody. You got to do. I see Jay Prince and them giving back. Top Dog and them giving back.
Giving back.
They don't got to do none of that.
But they do.
Ain't nobody got to do none of that. They wealthy. They real street dudes. They, on top of their post, they ain't got to do none of that. Top Dog just did a thing. He probably spent about $2 million. People don't know it. Doing that little thing in that he do every year in the Nixon Garden. Right. People don't respect that. Right. They don't even know the work that he had to go through. He had to go deal with the police department, the fire department, the city council, just for him to be able to say, I want to give my kids something back in this community. And he got to spend. People don't understand the amount of money he got to spend because I know because I did it. I do it. You know what I mean? The amount of money I got to get from people apply for grants just to get loans, and that shit don't happen. I got to do this shit myself to feed our own, to give our kids a chance. I know how I felt when I first met Jim Brown. Right. When I first met Ali, when I was boxing and coming up, and I met Ali. I know how that made me feel as a youngster to meet somebody. Gave you hope. Gave me hope, bro. And it gave me something to shoot for. I looked at Ali, how Ali talked when he went through his transition from just being Muhammad Ali to becoming, from being
Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali.
I studied that. I said, I want to be able to talk like him. I want to be able to fight like him. And it gives people hope. You know what I mean?
And
the
that's
kids,
what we do when they see us in the community.
Exactly. My sons now, they say, oh, you going to see Nick?
Yeah.
They never wanted to go see nothing else out there. Oh, we going up there. But you know, these is people who can see themselves in you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who can say, okay, well, look, man, he young like me. He did what he doing. You know what I mean? This is people who, you inspire people.
Right.
When you came and you did the thing for the girls.
Right.
It went across genders. You know what I mean? You didn't ask for no money.
At all.
You didn't ask for no nothing. You came up there, you offered support.
Yeah, I don't charge my people for nothing. I got that from Tupac. We charge the white folks. My people, especially if you really my people.
Exactly.
What I gotta charge you for? This is family right here.
But that's phenomenal. Like, that's stuff that every artist should be doing. You know what I mean? You should be doing that in your community.
Absolutely.
If you bless the people who support you, and I don't care if it ain't even our people, if it's some other people, if you make it,
right,
and you have that voice, you got that mic, you to me, your obligation.
Absolutely. And that's what I feel like, that's what people say when you turn your back on your community. And we have this idea, and I say this all the time, we have this idea where we want to make it out the hood.
Right.
Everybody want to get as much as they can. They want to get successful so they can make it out the hood. Mm-hmm. That's not, other communities don't have that concept. We need to make the hood.
Right.
They go get money, and then they take their money back to their hood and build it up. The Asian communities, the Jewish communities, those communities are built on the concept of making us. They'll all gather in one house, buy one house until they can have, and 10 people be in one house until they can have 10 houses that they all own together. Like, we don't do that. So that concept, and some people call it the crab in the barrel mentality or whatever, but everybody's constantly trying to make it out the hood. Mm-hmm. Our hoods are beautiful. We shouldn't want to make it out. We should want to make our hoods even more beautiful and feed into them. Stay there amongst our people. There was a concept of that when you think Harlem was the hood, still is the hood. Right. But you wanted to get to Harlem. Mm-hmm. You wanted to get to Chicago. Mm-hmm. These are places that coming up you wanted to be. That was the Mecca. So now we got to change that mentality and buy everything up, buy it back, make it fly, get to it.
This the problem. Well, I don't want to say it's a problem, but it's the mantle is going to people who don't have that concept. And they're being chosen by people who understand the concept. So here we go. You have a label. You have, let's say, Interscope. Interscope won't give me a deal to build people, because then I would take the money and build the community and build the artists, right? But Interscope will sign an independent artist who is 16, 17, 18. He becomes this humongous artist
without any guidance.
For the next 10 or 15 years, his concept is it's just me, it's on me. Watch what happened to our sports athletes, right? Mm-hmm. I do this. Mm-hmm. I'm a product of this. I raise these athletes in my house.
Right.
And then feed them. When they go off and go to college, now, they have been separated and sheltered by me from the streets of L.A. Because I'm like, no, you don't need to do this. You need to do this. And you go to school. So they don't even know the hood. They only know jumping to 16,
right.
17, 18, they go to college. When they go to college, they're introduced to a different world. They're introduced to Europeans, first time seeing Europeans, playing sports. Now they're introduced to these agents who are telling them, stay away from your hood. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to go to jail. Don't bring your homeboys. If you're going to get in trouble, you're going to go to jail. Do this, do this. Now they're being taught and conditioned
to separate
stay
themselves.
Away from the hood. I taught them to stay away from the hood. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I'm going to teach you how to get in this line to get to college. Then when they get to college, they get there. 1 year in college, they wealthy basketball players. 3 years in college, they wealthy football players. Or they have an income. But now, they have what? Now either moving to another state, and they're dealing with agents who are white and Jewish, who are telling them to deal with their own. They're giving them a manager who is white and Jewish, who's their cousin, and they're telling them what organizations to diverse your money into. No, don't give it to Big U, give it to the Red Cross. Don't give it to such, give it to the victims of something.
Right.
Okay, now we have 100 people donating to cancer organizations, but cancers don't kill black people like gangs do. Gangs kill black people. Not to say don't wear pink or don't support that, but when I say that, people don't get it.
We got to save our communities.
I am more fear of a young black man with a colored rag killing me than I am of cancer, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But the most dangerous and daunting threat, if you're going to donate your money, is to organizations that help stop the violence. Because the kid that you don't help will be the kid that kills your kid, or rob your kid, or hurts or breaks in your house.
Hurt people.
You know what I mean? So it goes again. The triangle is the young people who are now the top artists is who are growing in that was different than what Pac was. Pac was a young artist who was trained by his mother to understand.
Had the revolutionary mindset.
At a young age. Biggie was talking about getting a bag, having fun, and he would have grew into that eventually.
Absolutely.
But you see the difference in Biggie and Pac. Biggie was talking about you breaking in my house, I'm gonna kill you, or he was talking about selling bags, selling dope.
And Pac was talking about defending himself.
Brenda had a baby, all of this.
And if I gotta go to war, it's for my
people.
To war.
Then he went to hit him up and all that stuff.
He got upset.
And you're gonna need violence.
Yeah.
When you enact violence on me, I'm gonna defend myself and go
and
to
that's
war.
the thing, because the thing, and it goes back to, and I'm glad we were able to touch on all of these topics so we can break them down in a way. And I think we should close it because we started with talking about the idea of snitching. We talked about the history. We talked about having or understanding when to implement violence, when to have intimidation and fear, all amongst the gang culture. But in conclusion, to wrap it all up, knowing that we're moving forward, that we are coming together.
We are.
This is the lowest gang violence that we've experienced in the history of California, history of gang banging. We understand that we see each other as brothers. There's Bloods hanging with Crips on the highest level and the lowest level. You know what I mean? From the OGs to the young cats that's just getting to it. I remember there's certain areas I couldn't go in. Just in my community, there's certain colors I couldn't go. Now everybody's understanding. We participating together, and unless there is conflict or a problem, everybody's loving each other.
Exactly.
But understanding that conflicts and problems do occur, what's the best way as black men, as kings, to deal with conflict?
Honestly. I tell them all the time, honesty. Because somebody wrong.
Yeah. Two gangsters. Can two gangsters sit down and get to the idea?
We get in the pen. We're doing it on the streets today because at the end and the beginning of the day, somebody wrong. Either I didn't give you your whole full shake, or I didn't do my part. And
when you see that one person is wrong,
you have to.
How do you deal with it?
It's the same way. It's the same way. Like,
'cause there's repercussions to everything.
But it's somebody wrong though.
Right.
So that's where the violence. Because if they are violent people,
because that's where the code is. Right.
Then that's where that violence has to continue to go.
Right.
Unfortunately, man, we can't train our people to be nothing unless we don't have violence, and we can't train ourselves unless we have violence. Now, I'm gonna throw this out here for a second, because as I study, not murder. When I say violence, I'm saying, let me be clear. When I say violence, I'm not talking about the beheading of a person. I'm not talking about,
even though that's what our country does.
Yeah, I'm talking about you got homeboys, and this is what I tell people all the time. People gonna have conflict.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters
have
conflict in home in their mama's house.
We can't get around it.
So it's nowhere in the world you're gonna get a group of people together who not gonna have conflict.
Right.
Who not gonna have conflict.
And that's what that's what I say, because we ask the tough questions here and we get the honest answers, as you say. So amongst communities, when there's conflict, now this is what I was talking in the African culture. When there's conflict and there's judgment amongst ourselves, because ultimately, as much as we don't want to judge, if someone does something wrong, there has to be repercussions for it. They have to have some sort of sentence. In that sentence, because obviously the criminal justice system we know is super flawed and there's a problem with it. But if we're going to govern ourselves, if we're going to be sovereign amongst ourselves, in Africa, in some of the cultures in Africa, exile is how they do it. They don't confine them. They don't put them in cages. They don't even use violence necessary. They kick them out. They take them to the mountains. They take them to the wilderness and leave them in.
Now you're talking about the Bible.
Right.
That's the Adam and Eve story. That's really Adam and Eve.
Right. In exile. So knowing that conflict is going to occur, and we say violence, and then I even take it back to this gets interesting. the mafia. The mafia is so solid in amongst themselves and their families that when those two gangsters sit down and they're honest with each other and they find out who was wrong, when the bosses and they sit down and like, oh, my family was wrong, they did that, they have to then go and discipline their own.
That happens right now.
And they have to exile their own.
Yeah. I think, okay, like I was young when I learned structure. Let me say, when I went to prison, I was really young. I was 23. So when I got there, it's when I learned what you're talking about.
Right.
Before I got there, I was the young dude running the streets because I was the wild dude.
Right. You was the one they was talking about. You crazy. Yeah.
We was going. We didn't matter. They got guns over there. Okay, so what? We got guns. Let's go.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Right.
But when I got to incarceration, is where I learned structure. Is what you're talking about, and it was like, okay, different levels to discipline. Sometimes you got to get kicked out. You can't brand with us. You can't grow with us. You can't do this. And let me take that back. I said that wrong. When I started studying the Nation of Islam,
talk about it,
because I was already structured by the time I got to prison.
Right.
Because I started studying.
You had street structure.
Yeah, I started. I started having to use it myself. Let me say that, because I had started studying Islam before I went to prison, so I wasn't even the person I was when I went to prison. I started studying and accepted Islam. I cut my hair off and was moving in a different way before I went to prison. But in prison, at an early age, I had to start using the tools I was getting from the nation, and that was how to proper. It's a book that Honorable Elijah has called "The Proper Handling of Men" that Mr. Farrakhan puts out. And that book would tell you how to structure, how you should deal with arguments, like you said, exiling,
right.
Putting the person on seat time, not being able to talk,
right.
moving. What happened with Malcolm?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? For what he had did.
He got silenced.
Because
he spoke against John F. Kennedy's assassination.
Exactly.
Right.
And wrongfully when he was told not to.
Right, right.
And then people don't understand that a lot of Muslims got hurt because of what he said.
Right.
Some was bombed, some of the mosques was bombed, and
it was just because of certain communities had so much love, and therefore now you putting that out there, you got to deal with the consequences.
Yeah. And that's another thing, using the Malcolm thing, and then using gangs. We are moving to that now. And then we're saying how the Christian Bloods need to be re-educated, not reformed, but just educated, and the responsibility on them need to be put on to become men. Not saying go in and say, well, no. It should be, a conversation be like, okay, now the mamas and the grandmamas I'm talking about, what are you doing now?
Right.
Okay, you doing that, but what are you doing though? So do that mean that you don't got to go to work?
Right.
So that mean you don't have no responsibilities? So does that mean that you don't have no structure? Your homeboy did that, you're going to let him do that?
Right.
You're going to let him break into Auntie Betty's house?
Can't, no.
You're going to let him do that?
He can't.
Responsibility that. If you're going to do that, take your butt to somebody else's community and do that.
Right.
You know, I mean, not telling them.
Right.
But you get what I'm saying. It goes to what you're saying. The structure. There is structure, and we
rules
need to
and
stop
regulations
giving the mic
to the cats who don't know the structure.
Who don't know the structure. Who babies. All the top artists right now are babies.
Right.
And they affiliated with something.
Right.
So when they get to getting so high and moving so much, you give a dude $1 million, he ain't gonna listen to me.
Right.
Only way he gonna listen to me is he scared, fear.
Fear. You're going
That's
back to
the only
it.
way. What did he listen to me for? He ain't even got to come to L.A. And he can come to L.A. and he don't even never have to talk to me.
Right.
So it works like that too.
Right.
But in the real world, what we talking about goes all the way back to the original statement about snitching, about staying down, because it all has the same life. It's all the same energy.
There it is. At the end of the day. It's
you
right
know what
there.
I mean? And where Crips and Bloods going to be 30 years from now? Are we going to still be this negative force? Are we going to still be this group that white folks want to say they gang culture, they this and that? Or are we going to realize that the violence is down? Stop letting them call you bad. Stop taking on that mentality that you a bad force. Take on the mentality.
You're a warrior for your community.
Thank you.
You a king.
Let's become something.
And every
different.
king needs an army.
And we have it.
There it is. And we're going to end on that note. We're going to continue these conversations, but this is powerful. I learned a lot. I know everybody else learned a lot, and we're going to get to it. Big U, we appreciate you. If they want to follow you, if they want to learn more about your organization, what should they look up?
We have a website, developingoptions.com.
Developingoptions.com.
Or developingoptions.org.
Yeah.
And,
they can follow you on the gram, on all of that stuff.
At BIGU1. Big U1.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a blue check too.
Hey. And there you have it. My man. OG Big U.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, can y'all make sure he give me my headphones?
Yeah, I got you. You got the incredible headphones. They coming.
Make sure I get my headphones.
We got a blue pair for you.
Yes. I'm gonna need a couple of them. My sons is here. So can I get my headphones?
We got you.
Got 1 million people.